I'm Nazrul from Besant Technology. Today we'll start the AWS cloud computing. We'll start with the introduction of AWS cloud computing. And this module, today's agenda for our discussion will be what is cloud, characteristics of cloud, cloud computing facilities, why do we need cloud, what are the different models in cloud computing, different cloud providers available in market, what is virtualization in cloud, elastic computing cloud, ec2 instance type, and at last we'll go for our lab for creating ec2 in windows as well as linux machine. We'll start with the question, what is the cloud computing? In marketplace you will get a lot of definition of cloud, but in a single word term of what is cloud computing is we are doing our computing job over the internet. Cloud computing is the delivery of computing services, I mean servers, storage, database, networking, software, analytics and more over the internet or in the network. It's called cloud. Cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of computer power, database storage, application, and other IT resources through a cloud service platform via the internet with pay-as-you-go pricing. There is two terms in that you need to keep in mind. One is on-demand delivery. Another one is pay-as-you-go. We'll discuss these two things in subsequent lines. What is the cloud computing and who is the cloud provider? Companies offering these computing services are called cloud providers and typically charge for cloud computing service based on uses. Now we'll come for top benefits of cloud computing. Naturally, it is the cost, it is enhanced security, robust speed, global scale, productivity, performance in terms of your regular update, reliability in terms of your backup and business continuity and disaster recovery. Now we'll see 5 main characteristics of cloud computing. On-demand service. What do you mean by on-demand service? Whatever is our requirement, I will get as quickly as possible from our cloud provider. Second is broad network access, worldwide network access. Anywhere in the world you can access your internet and you can manage your IT infrastructure. High availability. Your data redundancy and high availability and fault tolerance scenario is totally enhanced in your cloud computing. They will give the SLA of 99.9999% of your highly available resources or instances. Rapid elasticity, it's mean you can scale out your requirement and as per your desire, or scale down your requirement as per your company's desire. That means rapid elasticity, if you compare with on premises, it is a robust one in your cloud. In a minutes of time you can scale out your resources or instances or your application and scale down if it is not required within a fraction of times. Last one point for characteristic is the major service. It is a simple way. We already have seen this earlier also. It is called pay as you go. As much resources or instances or application I am taking the cloud service, I'll pay for that only. That is the calculation of your pricing in cloud computing. Why do you need to go in clouds? What are the advantages? Trade capital expense for variable expense. It is the costing scenario. Instead of having to invest heavily in data center and server before you know how you are going to use them, you can only pay when you consume computing resources and only pay for how much you consume. Second scenario, benefit from massive economy of scale. By using cloud computing, you can achieve a lower variable cost than you can get on your own premises. Because uses from hundreds of thousands of customers are aggregated in clouds. Providers such as Amazon Web Services can achieve higher economic of scale, which translate into lower pay as you go price. Then it's coming stop guessing capacity. What does it mean? Eliminate guessing on your infrastructure capacity need. When you make a capacity decision prior to deploying an application, you often either end up sitting on expensive idle resources or dealing with limited capacity. That means it is very difficult to make a decision on premises how will we going for any expensive idle resources which is not an use, but you need to get that resources you, and it may impact your costing. With cloud computing, this problem go away. You can access as much or as little you need and scale up and scale down as required with only a few minutes notice. Next point is increase speed and agility. In a cloud computing environment, new IT resources are only over a click away, which means you reduce the time it takes to make those resources available to your developer from weeks to just minutes. This results in dramatic increase in agility for the organization, since the cost and time it takes to experiment and develop is significantly lower. One more benefit is stop spending money on running and maintaining data center. Focus on project that differentiate your business, not the data center or infrastructure. Cloud computing lets you focus on your own customer rather than on the heavy lifting of racking, stacking, and power powering servers. That means you no need to take care of your on-premises data center. Last point is our go global in minutes. Easily deploy your application in multiple regions around the world with just a few clicks. This means you can provide a lower latency and better experience for your customer simply and at a minimal cost. What are the different module in our cloud computing? That is a very important aspect if I are going for differentiate your cloud computing modules. It is mainly two types of modules. One is server or services or compute module. Another one is the deployment module. If we go for services or compute module, further it will be divided into three parts. It is IaaS, infrastructure as a service compute module, platform as a service compute module, software as a service compute module. What is that platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, software as a service? We'll see later on. One more criteria for your cloud modeling is the deployment type of module. If we go for deployment type of module, it is also divided in three types of category. One is public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. We'll check how this computing module is working first. We have three types of computing module. IaaS, infrastructure as module. This is in single word. It is a host of your infrastructure. It is hosting your infrastructure requirement in the cloud. Then it's coming PaaS, platform as a service. It's fulfill your requirement for building any application on clouds. It will give your platform to build your services or build your application programming interface or develop your application. Third type of computing module is software as a service. In that computing module, you are getting a readily software. You are no need to get any infrastructure. You are not going to get any platform. Simply you are getting ready-made software for your company use. You will be just as a consumer. It is a consuming type of your computing module. We can further differentiate this module with our on-premises data center. If you see our first on-premises data center module, the basic requirement of all these 9 criteria is must. Will come from bottom: networking, storage, and server virtualization. That is the three pillar of your infrastructure IT management. We need operating system, we need middleware runtime, and our infrastructure is managing data for the applications. Then all this combination, we are maintaining our on-premises data center. If we go for clouds, what is the differentiate it is making comparing to your on-premises data center? If I go for infrastructure as a service, what cloud is providing? Cloud will provide the basic main three things which is most required for your infrastructure data center. It is the networking, storage, and server. Here it is server means it is a virtual machine they will be providing from your cloud. In infrastructure, apart from a cloud services, we need to manage on your on-premises what operating system you will be using. It may be your Windows, Mac, or Linux. What middleware or runtime you will be using. What is the middleware or runtime? Middleware is the software development kit, or it may be Apache Tomcat, or it may be IIS, which is the catalyst, or it is making your program to run in that environment. It is creating your runtime environment. It is creating your middleware support for running your program. That is the must requirement for your developer and for your publisher for publishing your data or development your applications. Then we need to create our application and we need to maintain our data on premises for our infrastructure as a service. If we go for platform as a service, cloud will be providing along with your computing, networking, storage, operating system also they are giving middleware and a runtime as per your requirement they will be providing. You need to develop your applications and manage your data. That is the work area for your on-premises setup in platform as a service. If you go for computing module of software as a service, you are getting a ready-made software. You are not going to maintain your infrastructure on premises. You are getting cloud services for networking, storage, server, virtualization, operating system, middleware, runtime, data, applications. All these combination they will be working cloud provider or third party vendor they will be working to give you the support for your customized software as per your requirement. The type of service it is called software as a service. We'll elaborate these three computing type of services of clouds. If we go for infrastructure as a service, infrastructure as a service, sometimes abbreviated at IaaS, contains the basic building block of cloud IT and typically provide access to networking features, computer, virtual or on dedicated hardware, and data storage space. Infrastructure as a service provides you with the highest level of flexibility and management control over your IT resources and is most similar to existing IT resources that many IT department and developer are familiar with today's on-premises scenario. It is also known as hardware as a service. Best example for IaaS is Amazon Web Service, IaaS like AWS EC2 Elastic Cloud Computing. We'll see the next module of our computing service is platform as a service. You can tell it a target group for developers. Platform as a service remove the need of organization to manage the underlying infrastructure, usually hardware and operating system, and allow you to focus on development and management of your applications. These help you more efficient as you don't need to worry about resource procurement, capacity planning, software maintenance, patching, or any of the other differentiated heavy lifting involved in running your applications. For example, this service would make sense to you only if you are a developer, since this service provide you a platform for developing application like a Google App Engine. Next, we'll see our next computing module is software as a service. Software as a service provides you with a completed product that is run and managed by this service provider. In most cases, people referring to the software as a service are referring to end user applications. With a SaaS offering, you do not have to think about how the service is maintained or how the underlying infrastructure is managed. You only need to think about how you will use the particular piece of software. A common example of a SaaS application is web based email, where you can send and receive email without having to manage feature addition to the email product or maintaining the server and operating system that the email program is running on. You are not worried about who is maintaining the server and operating system. Your job is to use the services of ready-made software of the cloud provider. Salesforce.com is an example. Provide the customer relationship manager services on a cloud infrastructure to its cloud clients and charge for it, but the software is owned by the Salesforce company itself. Next, we'll proceed with the deployment module of the cloud. We have three type of deployment module: public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. What is public cloud? Public clouds are owned and operated by third party cloud service provider. Virtualization is typically used to build the cloud services that are offered to the public. It is a shared cloud, and cloud provider will give a space for a different cloud user who will be sharing the cloud space for their computing purpose. What is private cloud? Private cloud refer to the cloud computing resources used exclusively by a single business or an organization. A private cloud can be physically located on the company's on-site data center, or it can be hosted to your cloud provider cloud space also. Hybrid cloud combined public and private cloud together. It will bound together by technology that allowed data and application to be shared between them. What is hybrid cloud? This is the requirement of the most of the companies. They decide some of their application to be hosted on the cloud. They may be using public cloud for that. They don't have any security concern. They need a price concern. They need the lowest cost. That's why they will going for a public cloud. Partial of their application or data they will be using private cloud for their security and for their privately use data to be kept separate. That's why they will be using private cloud in that scenario. We'll go for biggest difference between public and private and hybrid cloud. If we go for tenancy means how I will be a tenant of a cloud provider. What is the difference between public, private, and hybrid cloud in view of tenancy? Public cloud is multi-tenancy. The data of multiple organization is stored in the shared environment. If you go for private cloud, it is a single tenancy. There is only the data of a single organization stored in the cloud. And hybrid cloud, the data stored in the public cloud is usually multi-tenant, which means the data from multiple organizations is stored in the shared environment. The data stored in the private cloud is kept private by the organization. In view of the exposed to the public, yes, public cloud is exposed to the public. Everyone can use the public cloud services. In private scenario, only the organization itself can use the public sorry use the private cloud services. In hybrid scenario, the services running on the private cloud can be accessed only by the organization users, while the service running on the public cloud can access by anyone. Data center location. In public cloud, anywhere in the internet where the cloud service provider services are located. In private cloud, inside the organization network, or it may be the privately allocated network in cloud provider clouds or cloud provider data centers. In hybrid cloud, data center location inside the organization network for private cloud service as well as anywhere in the internet for public cloud services. Cloud service management in case of public cloud, the cloud service provider manage the services where the organization merely uses them. Private cloud scenario, the organization must have their own administrator managing their private cloud services. Hybrid cloud, in cloud management scenario, the organization itself must manage the private cloud while the public cloud is managed by the cloud service provider. Hardware component, if we consider for public cloud, the cloud service provider will provide all the hardware and ensure it's working at all times. In case of private cloud, hardware component must be provided by the organization itself, which has to buy physical server to build the private cloud, or they can go for partial use of privately owned clouds storage from CSP provider. In hybrid cloud scenario, the organization must provide hardware for the private cloud while the hardware of cloud service provider is used for public cloud services. If you consider the expenses, public cloud service provider has to provide the hardware, set up the application and provide the network accessible according to the SLA. In private cloud can be quite expensive since the hardware, application and network have to be provided and managed by the organization itself. If organization is taking privately allocated space in data center of CSP, they should be make a higher price compared to the public cloud. In hybrid cloud, the private cloud service must be provided by the organization, include the hardware, application and networking, while the cloud service provider manage the public cloud services by their own. Next slide. Now we'll jump to the AWS. What we have seen in cloud computing earlier discussion was it is applicable for all the clouds. Now we'll start our AWS, Amazon Web Services, is a subsidiary of Amazon that provides on-demand cloud computing platforms to individual companies and governments on a metered pay-as-you-go basis. It was launched in July 2002. It is early stage. The platform consists of only a few disparate tools and services. Amazon Web Services was officially relaunched on March 14, 2006, combining the three initial services offering of Amazon S3 Cloud Storage, SQS and EC2. How the cloud in AWS is managed. Most of the cloud in AWS is managed by AWS Management Console. We are using command line interface also, as well as software development kits is used for AWS. Various technology and terms used comparing to AWS and the industry. If we go for computing EC2 instance, it is called in AWS, it's called in industry as a virtual machine or server. In AWS, it will be calling as EC2, Elastic Computing Cloud. EC2 means for. Then Amazon machine image, what all the images we will be keeping in our Amazon directory or Amazon console for developing our software. It is called in industry, it is a template. Your software template. In Amazon, it is called AMI or Amazon machine image. We are using storage of hard disks, virtual disks, and volume. In Amazon, it is called Elastic Block Storage or EBS storage. Object-based storage in industry, it is called in Amazon Simple Storage Service or S3. Measure of EC2 processor. What is the speed of processor? What is the module of processor in your industry? In AWS, it is called EC2 Compute Unit, ECU. In industry, it is called virtual CPU, Central Processing Unit for clouds. In AWS, it is called vCPU. Delegated administration, it is the power of an user in our industry level, but in AWS terminology, it is called IAM, Identity and Access Management. What is in industry, it is called load balancer. In our AWS, it is called Elastic Load Balancer, EBS. In industry, it is called DNS, Domain Naming Services. In AWS terminology, it is called Route 53. Next, we'll see how the AWS user portal looks like, how we'll be managing the AWS services. We have all these services. We'll log into the AWS console and we'll see how it's work. We have some concept of our global presence of Amazon Web Services. Presently, we have 69 availability zones. What is the availability zones? Where the data center, a big data center, is established for giving the computing services all over the cloud users. We have 22 geographical regions. In that geographical regions, we are dividing our data center in the availability zone. And for future planned, 9 more availability zones and 3 more regional center or geographical region in Cape Town, Jakarta and Milan. It is a planned. In that image, you can see multiple edge location. Regional center is the biggest one. How many regional center worldwide? We have 22 regional center. Under that regional center, we have availability zone and we have edge location, and multiple edge location means number more than one edge location also available in our 22 regional center geographic region. Next slide and next topics we'll go for virtualization. Whatever computing services we are getting from our cloud service provider is in a form of virtualization. If you go for a server or computing, it is a virtual server. If you are going for a network, it is a virtual network. If you are asking for any storage, it is a virtual storage. In our AWS, we'll call virtual machine as EC2 elastic cloud computing. We'll call our virtual network as VPC virtual private network, and we have our cloud storage in AWS is S3 simple storage services. What is virtualization? Virtualization in cloud computing. Virtualization is a creation of virtual rather than actual version of something, such as server, desktop, storage device, and operating system or networking resources. If we go for virtualization, we can see a different type of virtualization. There is 7 type of virtualization we are working in our industry. Operating system virtualization, it is called machine virtualization or virtual machine. Here in AWS it is EC2. Virtual server, application virtualization, server virtualization, network virtualization, storage virtualization, hardware and desktop virtualization we have. Now we'll go further on virtualization, different types of virtualization. If you go for hardware virtualization, it may be a full drive virtualization for bare metal or hosted. You can do your hardware virtualization partial or para. Network virtualization is internal network virtualization you can do, or external network virtualization or external VPC. Storage virtualization is a blocks type of storage virtualization or file virtualization or file type of storage virtualization. Memory virtualization, if you go for application level integration purpose or operating system level integration purpose. Then you go for software virtualization, it is a operating system level or application level software or the software for your uses in the service software virtualization. We have data virtualization, we have only the database to get our virtual database virtualization. Desktop virtualization, if you go for virtual desktop infrastructure and hosted virtual desktop infrastructure in our scenario. Then what is the virtual appliances we are using in cloud? Virtual appliances is a pre-configured virtual machine image ready to run on a hypervisor. Virtual appliance are a subset of broader class of software application we will be using in our AWS. It is called Amazon Machine Image, AMI. Installation of software appliance on a virtual machine and packaging that into an image creates a virtual appliance. Like software appliance, virtual appliance are intended to eliminate the installation, configuration, and maintenance cost associated with running complex stack of software. Now we'll come to our AWS AMI. What is AMI? Nothing but a virtualization in our cloud scenario. It is a image of your virtual software. And a Amazon machine image is a physical type of virtual appliance that is used to create a virtual machine within the Amazon Elastic Computing Clouds or EC2. It serves as the basic unit of deployment for service delivered using EC2. The main component of an AMI is a read-only live system image that includes an operating system, Linux, Unix, or Windows, and any additional software required to deliver a service or a portion of it. Next, we'll see the what is the extent of the AMI. A template for the root volume for the instances, for example, an operating system, an application server, and applications. Launch permission that control which AWS account can you use the AMI to launch instances. A block device mapping that specifies the volume to attach to the instance when it is launched. Amazon EC2 pricing. What is the types of pricing in Elastic Computing Cloud or your server version in your Amazon cloud? There are four ways to pay for Amazon EC2 instance: on demand, reserve instances, spot instances, dedicated host, which provide you with EC2 instance capacity on physical server dedicated for your use. This small image, it will give some concept of your instance prices in AWS. On demand means whenever I required any instance to be run, I can ask for a on demand services. A reserve instance, it is a reserve for your user who is asking for AWS instance from the cloud. Spot instances are offering of any discounted portion of your instances for a time to time basis for the cloud users. Dedicated host is costliest instances to be dedicatedly provided by the cloud provider to the cloud users. If we go for details elaboration of on-demand pricing of AWS instance, pay for compute capacity by per hour or by per second depending on which instance you run. No longer term commitment or upfront payment are needed. Can increase or decrease compute capacity depending on the demand of application and only pay the specific per hourly rate for the instance you use. On demand instances are recommended for low cost on and flexibility of Amazon EC2 without any upfront payment or long term commitment. Applications with short term spiky or unpredictable workload that cannot be interrupted. And applications being developed or tested on Amazon EC2 for the first time, we can use on demand instances. What is the instances in AWS pricing? Amazon EC2 spot instances allow you to request spare Amazon EC2, which is the extra one. It is a spare Amazon Elastic Cloud Computing capacity for up to 90% of the cost 90% of the cost deduction comparing to your on demand price. Spot instances are recommended for applications that have flexible start and end time, applications that are only feasible at very low compute prices, users with urgent computing need for large amount of additional capacity. Then we'll see for reserve instances and their pricing and their uses in AWS instance. Significant discount up to 75% comparing to on-demand instance pricing assigned to spatially availability zone. They provide a capacity reservation, additional confidence as per need. For applications that have steady state or predictable uses, reserved instances can provide significant saving compared to using on-demand instances. Reserved instances are recommended for application with steady state uses, application that may require reserve capacity, customer that can commit to using EC2 over a 1 or 3 years term to reduce their total computing cost. What is the dedicated host type of AWS instances and their uses and pricing? A EC2 server dedicated for use. Dedicated host reduce cost by allowing to use your existing server-bound software licenses, including Windows Server, SQL Server, and SUSE Linux Enterprise Server, and can also help meet compliance requirement. Can be purchased on demand hourly, can be purchased as a reservation up to 70% of the on demand price. Now we'll go for EC2 Elastic Computing Cloud or Elastic Compute Cloud. What is EC2? Amazon EC2 is a web service that provide resizable computing capacity, literally servers in Amazon data center that you use to build and host your software applications. It is infrastructure as a service. It is also known as virtual machine in the cloud. It is pay per use, pay as you go scalable platform for VMs in cloud. It is support Windows Linux instances. Amazon Machine Image refers to virtual disk template. You will get your machine image as a template for your operating systems. Types of EC2 instances in Amazon Web Services. We have general purpose type, we have compute optimized type, GPU instance, memory optimized, storage optimized types of instance. What is general purpose instances? General purpose instances provide a balance of compute, memory, and network resources and are a good choice for many applications. They are recommended for small and medium database data processing tasks that requires additional memory for running backend server for SAP, Microsoft SharePoint, and other enterprise applications. Now, what is the optimized instance? Compute optimized instance have a higher ratio of vCPU to memory than other families and the lowest cost per vCPU among all other Amazon EC2 instance type. Example of such application includes high specific front end fleet, on-demand batch processing, distributed analytics, web server batch processing, and high performance science and engineering applications. Then GPU graphic instance, graphic processing unit provide you GPUs along with high CPU performance, large memory and high network speed for application running high performance graphic acceleration such as 3D virtualization and incentive graphic intensive remote workstation. What is GPU compute instance? GPU compute instance provides general purpose GPU along with high CPU performance, large memory, and high network speed for applications requiring massive floating point processing power such as machine learning, high performance database, and seismic analytics. Memory optimized instances. Memory optimized instances have the lowest cost per GB of RAM among Amazon EC2 instance type. We recommend memory optimized instance for many database applications. For memcached and other distributed caches and larger deployment of enterprise application like SAP and Microsoft SharePoint. Storage optimized instances. Storage optimized instances provides you with direct data storage options optimized for applications with specific disk input output and storage capacity requirement. We recommend I2 instances for NoSQL databases which benefit from very high random input output performance, and IOW request tenancy of direct attached SSDs. We recommend D2 instance for running large scale data warehouse or parallel file systems. EC2 instance through EC2 management console. We'll go to console and we'll see how we'll be working on EC2. Basic step to configure the EC2. We need to select an AMI Amazon machine images, which software you require to install in your instances. Select an instance type. In free software, we will be using whatever available instance type is there. Configure instance details. Add storage in the instances. Add a tag. Give the instance name. It is an optional. Configure and assign a security group. That is the most crucial scenario for your environment running on the cloud computing EC2. Review and launch your instances. Create and download a key pair. For login to your instances, one key pair should be created. A .pem file will be created. You need to keep in a separate place for your further use to get password to log into your instances. We'll go to our EC2 instance. We'll see how the EC2 instance is working. We'll create two EC2 instance. One is Linux machine, another one is Windows machine, and we'll see how we'll be getting that machine for our application development. We'll go for RDP and SHAs. Okay, there is no machine running in there, and here is my console for services in AWS cloud service. We'll go for EC2 instance. This is the dashboard. I am going for creating one EC2 instance. There is no EC2 instance existing. Launch an instance. Here is the first step to choose an Amazon machine image. Amazon machine image is a template that contains this software configuration or your operating system or your application software or your application servers requires to launch your instance. You can select AMI provided by AWS or user community or AWS marketplace. We'll select an AMI of Linux type first. This is the Linux, Amazon Linux 2 AMI VHD SSD volume type. We'll select this AMI, select it. Next step, choose an instance type. Amazon EC2 provide a wide selection of instance type optimized to fit different use cases. Instances are virtual server that can run application. They have varying combination of CPU, memory, storage and networking capacity and give you the flexibility to choose the appropriate mix of resources for your applications. Here I am eligible for only general purpose. T2 micro is the type, instance type, vCPU number is 1, memory is 1 GB, data storage type is EBS, elastic block storage. There is a lot of instance type. It will show it as per your application requirement on your operation scenario. We'll be selecting this general purpose and next go for configure instance detail. This is the configure instance details. You can launch multiple instances from the same AMI, require spot instance to take advantage of the lower prices, assign and assess management role to the instance and more. I am going to create only single instance. I am not going to taking any spot instance offer here. You can select for a spot instance. You can see what all the instances and their prices. I am not going to select now. You need to select a network. Without network, you cannot work in your clouds. They will be creating your instance, but you are unable to communicate without your networking configuration. By default VPC is already selected. You can create one VPC and you can attach with the network. Subnet default we have for all these VPC virtual private cloud. It is called the networking in our AWS. Subnet 3 subnet is already is there on default subnet. Out of these three, one subnet it will be choose. Auto assign public IP. They will be assigning a public IP for communicating your on-premises data center instances to be taking remote and work for the users, cloud users. They will be communicating to their data center instances with the public IP. Placement group capacity reservation, we are not going to change anything. IAM identity and access management rule, it is not there. If you want, you can create an assigned one. Shutdown behavior, when you will keep the shutdown, it will stop the machine. It should not terminate. Terminate means it will delete the machine infrastructure from your cloud. Shutdown behavior will keep in stop position. Enable termination protection. We are not enabling accidental termination now. Monitoring CloudWatch, we are not enabling now. Tenancy type, run software and hardware instance. It is a shared tenancy type. We have been specified by default. It is a shared one, not dedicated or dedicated host. I am going for a lowest price cost tenant one. I will be selecting as a shared tenant. Elastic interface, we are not going to select for accelerator. T2, T1, it is the tier of your cloud EC2. It is a highly cost and it is under consideration. We are not going to select this. We will be working in T1 itself. T2, T1 is the application to burst beyond the baseline. It is the latest version, and cost it will cost your instant most more comparing to T1 instances. If it is a Linux machine, I want to write a code for I want to take that machine as HTTP. That's why I'll be giving this code here. It will go to the HTTP Linux machine bash shell, and it will do update of your bash shell. Then it will install the httpd http services, then services httpd, it will be start. Okay, next step for your configuration, go to add storage. By default, they'll cloud provider will give you a storage of 8 GB memory for Linux machine. It is a SSD type. Okay, if we add volume here, we need to create a volume, then you can add it. We'll go for this 8 GB, it will okay for me. Then add tag. Tag is nothing but creating a group for your easy identification for your project scenario, or it will be using for your pricing tag, for your price calculation, and for your billing purpose. Presently, we will not go for creating any tag. Now we'll go for configure security group. A security group is a set of firewall rules that control the traffic of your instance. On this page, you can add rules to allow specific traffic to reach your instance. If you want to enable HTTP web page to be run in that instance, you need to create a HTTP rule. Here I have by default I need to take remote of that machine through SSH Linux version is port number 22. I need to take HTTP rule enable because I want a web page to be run from that instances. I need to enable HTTP port number 80 in that scenario. Then we will go for review and launch. This is the review scenario. Instance type is T2 micro. It is a 1 CPU, 1 memory, EBS only. Security group SSH and HTTP. I enable SSH for taking the remote of our Linux machine. Port number 22. HTTP is for my web server running in port number 18. Instance details, storage tag we have not created. Okay, we will hit launch and it will give you a key pair. A key pair consists of a public key that AWS store and a private key that you can store. You need to store that private key for opening your instances remotely. Together, they allow you to connect to your instance securely. For Windows AMI, the private key file is required to obtain to the password used to log into. For Linux, the private key file allow to securely SSH into your instance. Okay, I will select create a new key pair. Okay, I will give the key pair name test key 1. It will download to my download folder. Okay, download the key pair. Test key 1 is downloaded. Then I'll go for launch instance. My instance is launching. Instance is now launching. I'll see the status my of instance, view instance. It is the instance console. One instance is launching here. I'll give the name of this instance. It is a Linux instance I created. I'll give Linux 1. Okay, it is in pending state. It is instance stage is running. Status check is initializing. I'll see the instance description. Status check, it is still initializing. Description, it is creating a DNS. It's have a public IP. We'll be going to take that instance through public IP. Then we have private DNS and private IP. All these things it is there. Let it initialize. I'll create one more instance that will be my Windows instance. Okay, go to launch instance. Now I'll create an AMI of Windows type. We'll go for Windows Server 2019 base. Select Windows 19 2019 base. I need to go for general purpose. There is no option because I am using free tier eligible. Okay, configuration instance details. Okay, I will take only one instance. I am not going for spot instance. Networking is by default I will be using. Availability zone it will set. Assignment there is no change, already we have discussed all these things. And I will go for add storage. They will be adding and storage for 30 GB for Windows machine. It is okay for me. It is a SSD type. GP2 is the group of your volume type. IOPS is 100 by 3000. Okay, I'll go for add tag I am not doing. Configure security group. Here it is a Windows machine. By default RDP port of 3389 is enable. RDP means remote desktop protocol. I will be taking my Windows machine remotely. I will be working on the Windows machine. I will be logging to the Windows machine remotely through this 3389 port. That's why I need to enable this port in that security group. I need to allow one more port, HTTP port. I may create an HTTP page for testing on that instances, Windows instances. That's why I am enabling HTTP port here. Then last option is review and launch. This is the thing we have chosen. I am launching the instances. I need to select a key pair. I will be selecting new key pair for this. Test key 1 already I have selected. I will be keeping this key pair also in the same. Okay, new key pair I will give test key pair 2. Okay, download the key. This is for Windows. Key is downloaded. Launch instance. Instance is launching. We'll see the instance, view instance. Yeah, this instance is running. I'll give a name of this instance. This is Windows 1. Oh, this machine is now running to public DNS. Public IP is already created. It is running. It will take some time for initialization. My Linux machine is ready. It is running 2 by 2. Check is over. I'll go and I'll connect to the Linux machine. For connecting Linux environment from Windows, I am working in Windows machine. I need to work with putty and putty gen. We have a .pm file. First process, I need to create a Linux computable password file from .pm file. It will putty software will not take your .pm file. It should be taken your Linux file from .pm. Okay, and now we'll go for putty gen. I'll create one file. I'll load that .pm file for this. I'll go for all files. I got text key 1 for Linux machine. I'll take this file .pm file. Okay, I'll save the private key here. Private key. You want to save this key? Yes. I will be say .ppk is the key version. This is for Linux ALI. Linux key. I'll save here .ppk file. Save the Linux key. Okay, my private key is saved now. Now I'll go my putty. Open putty. We need to give the host name here. I'll get the host name from here. This page and I'll go for connect this machine. I'll get the host name here. It is the host name. Copy the host name. Go to the putty. Paste host name. Then we'll go for giving the password. We'll go for connection. Go for SSH, then go for auth and open your password here. Linux key is my password. Open it. Open the Linux environment. Hit yes. Username password is taken. Your Linux machine is created. This is your Linux console. You got your Linux machine in your cloud AWS environment. AWS Linux to AMI. It's created your machine. Okay, Linux machine creation and configuration in AWS is over. Now we'll see how to log into my Windows machine. It was running. Now it is in a status of check is over. We'll go for connect. If I go for connect, it will ask for download remote desktop file. Before that, I need to get a password. Get password first. Where I kept my key test key.pem. Okay, for creating my password, I need to go to my file. Okay, choose file. It should be in my download. It is my key text key 2pm. Open that file. This is the private key is I need to decrypt it for my EC2. This is the password it is giving for login to my instance. Okay, password I copied. Then download RDP file. Okay, RDP is downloaded. Go to RDP connect. By default, Windows machine username should be administrator in AWS EC2 console. If you go for RDP connection in that administrator, you need to give your password which is generated. Okay, and hit OK. You will be log into your remote machine of Windows 2019 server. Your remote machine is ready to be used. This is your remote machine in clouds. Windows 2019 server version we have created and we have logged in remotely in that machine. Now what we'll see, this machine we have this Linux machine I have enabled HTTP. I'll check that HTTP is working. I'll go and I'll copy that DNS. I'll go to URL. I'll enter and I'll see, yeah, that Linux machine which I created through my console HTTP port is this page is used to test the proper operation of Apache HTTP server after it has been installed. If you read this page, it means that Apache HTTP server installed at the site is working properly. Then EC2 for Linux machine, we have went to the console and we have tested HTTP port in Linux machine. It is working okay. I will be checking my Windows machine HTTP port is working or not. That's why I took RDP. I'll go to that machine. I need to go to server manager. In that server manager console, I need to enable the service role of HTTP. That's why I need to enable Windows IIS services role in this server. It is updating. Before that, let it work. I need to allow port number 80 in this server firewall setting. We'll go to firewall. Okay, Windows Defender Firewall Advanced Security Setting. I'll go for outbound role, new role, create a role for port. I'll be allowing the port number 80. Next, allow the connection. Next, allow all the connection. Next, I'll give a name, port number 80, enable. Finish. Port number 80 is enabled in my firewall. Now I am going to allow the role or install the role of Windows Internet Service role base and feature base. Next, select that server. Next, go for the services. Windows Web Server IIS is the role I need to select. Add features. Next, hit next, hit next. All these features I need. Next, install. it may take 1 or 2 minutes. If it is installing inetpub in C block, it will be C drive, it will be installed. Here I need to check this PC C drive. As soon as that services will be installed here, inetpub folder will be activated. Still it is being installed. Feature is installing. I'll check my C drive inetpub is created or not. Yeah, this folder is came inetpub www root iis start. Okay, I'll go to my what I did in my remote server. I enable the role of IIS web server role, and I enable the port 80 in server firewall. I'll go to my console. I'll see my Windows PC. This is my Windows PC's DNS. I'll copy this DNS. I'll go. I'll paste and hit. Let's see. Windows server, web server, internet information service is working fine. So we'll conclude this session with all the modalities of EC2. We have seen what is cloud, types of clouds, and types of EC2, modules of clouds. All discussion is happened. We created EC2 of Windows. We logged into EC2 Windows. We took RTP. We enable IIS service, and we took web services, and we got that web services through my public DNS. We created one Linux machine. We logged in the Linux console, as well as we enable HTTP services on that Linux, and we check that HTTP services is working fine in Apache Tomcat scenario. This is the session for 2 days. I am closing the session as of now. We'll see next session